Welcome. Welcome, graduates and guests. My name is Paul Allen, and I'm the director of the Oregon Executive MBA program, and I'm pleased to announce the 40th commencement of the Oregon Executive MBA program is now underway. You may now take your seats. And it's now my honor to introduce Bruce Blonigan, the Lundquist College of Business's Edward Miletus Dean.
Welcome, everyone. This is a fabulous occasion. Thank you, Paul. It's my great honor and pleasure to be here today to share this special moment with our graduates, their family and friends, and our faculty and staff. My job is to say a few words and get out of the way so we can get to the meat of the program, which is to celebrate all of you, our graduates. The graduates of the Oregon Executive MBA program are so inspiring to me. You enter the program with a high level of prior experience and then pursue a degree while already busy with career and personal lives. I love this ceremony because we oftentimes have young children milling about. It's wonderful. The degree of difficulty and the determination it takes to successfully complete this degree is truly impressive. We often think about the information you gain from content in the coursework as the value of the degree. But in a program like this, a substantial value comes from engaging with a set of already successful colleagues to explore and collaborate as you take on the course topics. We have large enough cohorts in the program to provide a diverse set of perspectives and experiences, but small enough to allow you to really build a strong community. This network of colleagues is an asset that you will have for the rest of your life, and I say to you, cherish it and use it. I'm not just excited for you, our graduates, but also for our entire community. The network of Oregon Executive MBA alumni is extensive and deep, providing substantial leadership across Portland and our region. We look to all of you to be leaders as well. At a time when our world truly needs good leadership more than ever. Ambition, drive, passion, these are characteristics that we often hear as qualities we want in a leader. But in a world of increasing polarization, these traits by themselves have begun to give me pause. I hope that your time in our program has helped you hone a more nuanced approach to leadership for the many complex problems we face today. Ambition should be balanced with empathy and tolerance for others, while passion should be balanced by the ability to interrogate ideas with others dispassionately. And the business mindset is well suited for this balance. The incredible high or passion that comes from creating an idea for a new product or a startup must face the dispassionate rigor of market analysis and business planning. Decision-making in successful businesses comes from exploring many alternatives, inviting critical feedback, and finding solutions that serve the most people. My way or the highway rarely works in a business setting, and I would argue in any setting. You are the current and future leaders of our community, and we're incredibly honored and proud that you chose us for your Executive MBA degree. As you take a culture of balance, community, inclusion, tolerance, and collaboration beyond the boundaries of this program to positively engage and impact other parts of our community, the world will be a better place. So we will be cheering you on, and that will often come with a "Go Ducks!" Thank you, and now I will turn over the podium to Kyle Dozier-Crook, MBA 26, who will introduce this year's very special commencement speaker.
It is my privilege to introduce our commencement speaker, Scott Kerslake, a leader whose career has been defined by innovation, purpose, and a deep understanding of how brands can inspire people to live more active, connected lives. Across decades in the outdoor and athletic industries, Scott has helped shape companies that reflect not just what people wear, but how they move through the world. Scott is perhaps best known as the founder of Athleta, a pioneering performance apparel brand created specifically to empower women and girls through sports and movement. Long before the market fully recognized the opportunity, Scott envisioned a brand rooted in both performance and purpose, helping redefine how women's athletic wear could support strength, confidence, and community. Under his leadership, Athleta became a powerful force that ultimately earned national recognition and a lasting influence. Following Athleta, Scott continued to leave his mark on the industry as CEO of Prana and Nixon. At Prana, he strengthened the brand's commitment to sustainability and responsible business practices, positioning it as a leader in environmentally conscious apparel. At Nixon, he guided a globally recognized accessories brand known for its design-driven approach and authentic connection to action sports and creative culture, demonstrating his ability to lead across diverse and evolving markets. Today, Scott serves as acting president of Outdoor Research, where he advances innovation and performance gear for those who explore, push limits, and depend on their equipment in demanding environments. In addition to this role, he has become a trusted consultant and advisor across the outdoor and athletic apparel industry, working with emerging and established brands alike to help them refine strategy, navigate growth, and stay true to their purpose in a competitive and rapidly changing landscape. Scott is also no stranger to the University of Oregon. In 2016, he became a professor of practice at the Lundquist College of Business, the Oregon Executive MBA's academic home, and has shared his vision and experience with many students at the UO's Eugene campus. Today, Scott continues that tradition, providing an inspiring vision for the graduates of the UO's Portland-based MBA program for experienced professionals. Please join me in welcoming a visionary entrepreneur, industry leader, and family friend of over 20 years, Scott Kerslake.
Good afternoon, everybody. So maybe students, the first thing I'd like to say is it would be great to acknowledge Paul, Kit, Carrie, Nona, Wendy, for making this program such an amazing program. So why don't we start by just giving them some props and put your hands together for them. And of course, the same is true with faculty. So students, it's a real honor to be here with you and celebrate with you on such a big milestone day. And I appreciate very much the invitation to be part of your special day. So a number of weeks ago, a real icon and adventurer from the Pacific Northwest passed away at the age of 97. And his name was Jim Whittaker. And if you don't recognize that name, he was the first American to summit Mount Everest, and he did so in 1963. So think for a moment about what that experience was like for him and for the crew that went. All of the preparation, all of the risk, trying to figure out what was the right route, and certainly the elements to contend with. And then, literally in a moment, standing on top of the world. Literally on top of the world. And that's a moment very few humans had experienced, maybe 3 or 4 by that time. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that that was the story, the arrival, the accomplishment that really defined his life. But he never saw it that way. And that was very apparent to all of the people who he mentored and all of the people who surrounded him from his life. And there's a woman named Melissa Reed who is also an incredible climber and somebody that Jim Whittaker had mentored. And she's the first American woman to summit Everest without supplemental oxygen, which is an incredible feat. And in remembering him, she had some amazing quotes. He didn't just arrive at the summit and then stay there forever as a shrine to his singular accomplishment. He knew no one accomplishment is like your arrival point in adventure. And then I think she had probably the best quote that I'd love for you as students to take with you going forward. She said, "Adventure is the forever unfolding thing that we're always on." Adventure is the forever unfolding thing that we're always on. So I want you to sit with that for a moment, because this day and where you are is a moment of a forever unfolding for you as you're stepping into today. So, but the summit is a place that you pass. It's not a place that you live. And oftentimes the climbers who get into trouble are the ones that, not going up, but they're the ones who reach the top and then forget that they actually have to come down and navigate that terrain. And so it's a continuous adventure. And so Jim Whittaker didn't do that. He didn't forget. He actually went on to lead dozens of expeditions and adventures and really work with dozens of organizations that he really believed in, including as the CEO of REI. So standing at the top of Everest for him, it was amazing to him, but it was a chapter in his book. And your Oregon MBA is and will be an important chapter in your book, an important summit. You will no doubt take everything that you've learned from this great faculty and you will share it and you will turn it into wisdom and you will find that you will be able to learn from so many others in terms of their own experiences. And this amazing community that you have really stood shoulder to shoulder with since the inception of this program, they're going to be with you from here on out. And that is an incredible gift to have that community. And I can already tell, just interacting with most of you, how tight that community is. You will be with each other from here on out, which is an incredible gift. So you are about to undertake your next adventure, and then the adventure after that, and the adventure after that, and so on. So here's something I'd like for you to consider. What would it mean to hold your career and your finite time on this planet in that way? More as not just a summit to reach, but a range of adventurers to explore, where every ascent, every experience builds on the next and builds on the next. You know, one thing a little bit of age does to you is when I look back on my career, it all makes total sense to me. Every experience built on the next and built on the next and built on the next. But I can tell you, when I was in the thick of a lot of it, it made no sense to me. There was an early part of my career where I was dying to work in the outdoor industry. And I got rejected by all the brands that you know of, the North Face, Sierra Designs, everybody. But I needed to earn money. So I got a job in a freezing cold warehouse in South San Francisco, packing food and beverage products, and frankly, learning how to drive a forklift. At that moment, none of it really made sense to me. But I can tell you when I started Athleta, we had a distribution center, we had a warehouse, and guess what? Somebody needed to drive the forklift. So at that moment, later in life, it all made sense to me. So here's something to consider. Again, as you think about going forward, holding your life and holding your identity just a little bit more loosely. So you're in this awesome process of becoming and continuously evolving. And that's gonna go till the very end, until your heart beats its last beat. So we often strive to be the perfect self, or what we think is the perfect self, or an image of the perfect self, like it's a summit or just a destination. And we cling pretty tightly to that sometimes. But the truth is, you are all works in progress. We are all works in progress. And your body, as you sit here, is turning over millions of cells. So you're changing as we speak. Everybody is. So my hope really is that this might enable you to hold your finite time on this planet just a touch more loosely. And that has the potential of doing something that's going to have a profound impact on you as you navigate the next adventure and the next adventure. And that's this, that you recognize your own humanity in a kinder, more compassionate way. And you're going to need that as you go from adventure to adventure and range to range and summit to summit. And if you do that, the benefit of that is not only good for you, it's good for everybody around you. And more than likely, if you can recognize your own humanity in that way, you are much more likely to recognize that in others, the basic humanity of others. And this, my friends, is actually quite in short supply of the world. You may have noticed that. And it's actually in quite short supply in the business world as well. Now, you've read a lot of cases and you've done a lot of studying since you entered this program. This point might have been not as apparent to you as some of the other things that you learned, but I have to tell you, I actually think it's one of the most important things. So I and we have many hopes for you as you leave this program. But I can tell you, after 35 years of being a CEO, is that you recognize the potential and amazing impact you have on the people around you. As you no doubt have learned over the course of the program, there are lots of reasons why some businesses succeed and some businesses fail. Could be market conditions, could be industry dynamics, could be strategic choices maybe that didn't work out, could be executional things. But if you think about how things get done in an organization, particularly in an age of AI, it comes down to humans interacting with other humans in a way that's meaningful. Meaningful in a way that's meaningful to the human, but also meaningful to the organization. So I want to share a statistic with you that I find stunning. So in the latest Gallup Global Survey, according to Gallup, the most recent data, fewer than 1 in 5 employees is actively engaged at work. And in some ways, maybe not disengaged in a dramatic way, just absent and maybe not present other than being present in body and maybe just doing what is just required and no more. So let that land for a second. In the organizations that you lead, in the organizations that you are going to be part of, if you're not already, 4 out of 5 people are waiting for someone like you to recognize them and to care, and to be part of something bigger than themselves. And that matters because most humans will spend roughly 85,000 hours working. It's a lot of hours. And to spend 85,000 hours and not being absolutely engaged and enthralled is just a complete waste. And so guess what? You can change this. And this is the opportunity for you. The people who you lead and who you surround yourselves with really have 4 basic needs. They want to belong, and they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want to be able to have their own voice and speak without any sort of retribution. any sort of revenge, if you will. They want to be free to bring their whole selves to work, and they want their work to have meaning, and they want their contribution to have meaning. So when you look at this Gallup survey here, it's really not a productivity issue. It's a leadership issue. And again, this is where you come in. And that means it's a human problem. And herein lies probably your greatest opportunity as you exit this program. Your presence and how you carry yourself matters a lot. The reason that most people stay at a company is almost entirely due to the person who is leading them and who's managing them. And of course, the opposite is true. The reason people leave companies is almost entirely due to the person who is leading them. And so what do those leaders who shine actually do? Well, they listen before they speak. They give credit freely. They take responsibility for their own actions. And they remember that the people who work with them have lives outside of work and act accordingly. And they tell people that their contribution matters. And they ask questions far more than they give answers. So none of this is complicated. It's really not complicated. And I can tell you, after having been at this for quite a few years, it's not the standard. It's really not the standard. So I often ask the leaders who I've worked with a little bit of a subversive question. I say, who's the hardest person you think you'll ever have to lead? And most of the time, those leaders start to think about somebody that they're leading now. Maybe they've led historically. And I gently, sort of gently interrupt them. And I say, the hardest person you're ever going to have to lead is you. It's us. And why is that? Because we're humans. And we're all this crazy, complicated mix of genes and cells and experiences and thoughts and feelings. And we all kind of show up slightly differently every day. You might have noticed that. And when you put groups of humans together, things get pretty complicated. And so this is why it's really critical for all of you when you leave here to recognize that we are all works in progress. And if you haven't activated it yet, your superpower is to be curious about that and to be fully human. All of you will likely occupy leadership positions in the future in some sort of capacity. And as leaders, I really want to ask you something from here on out. Make human connections a critical ingredient in how you lead. It sounds simple, but it's not simple. In an age of agentic interactions, compassion, empathy, understanding really matters now more than ever. And everyone you work with has a story. And your job is to understand that story and meet them where they are. I learned that from a great mentor of mine who's sitting in the audience here, Dr. Michael Crook, who told me that about 25 years ago. And it's something that really has stuck with me. And it's changed it's really in that moment changed how I led. So I want to tell you a quick story. So one morning at Athleta, a woman comes in to interview for a customer service position. She looked tired as hell, and I could tell that she was not in a great place. I subsequently found out about 2 minutes into the interview that she had just come as a checker from a 24-hour grocery store. She had literally come right from work to the interview. I also learned, and no wonder she was tired, I also learned about a month later that she was married, and her husband was both physically and emotionally abusive, just not a good human. So in the middle of the night, one night, she had had enough, packed up as much as she could, grabbed her 2 young kids, and got the hell out of there. If you met this woman, her name is Penny, if you met this woman, I promise you, you would look her in the eye and you would see something magical, a real sparkle in her eye. And everyone who interviewed her and interacted with her at Athleta in those days knew that she had something very, very special and knew it was worth, we're going to get behind this woman in a big way. The culture that we had built at the company and the values that were rooted in the company appealed to her and probably were a great fit for where she was in her life. We were super fast-paced, high-octane, but we were also very collaborative and supportive in our culture. And as you can imagine, with being an active company, most of the people who came to the company, leading an active life and leading a healthy life was a big priority for them. So we had a lot of athletes, a lot of people who were really interested in moving their bodies, frankly, both from a mental health standpoint and from a physical health standpoint. So those things really resonated with Penny. And bit by bit, Penny started to walk. And then she started to run. And then we did this crazy-ass thing of these 24-hour races that are just like the Hood to Coast, but it's the California version of that. And then she started running 10Ks, and she ran, I think, 10 marathons. So roll the tape forward. A couple years later, Penny led our customer service group of almost 100 people, which is really amazing. And she was the type of leader who people really wanted to get behind because she cared deeply for them. So everyone has a story. Everyone who you meet has a story, and it's important for you as leaders to pay attention to that story and lead accordingly. If I think about the most successful leaders that I have worked with, they're the types of leaders that people really wanted to follow because they cared for people. And I'm sure at this point in your life, you've actually had the experience of perhaps the opposite, which can be an incredible thing to be able to shape your own leadership. The first boss that I had out of college on Wall Street was an incredible gift to me because he was absolutely the worst leader you could ever imagine. He talked over people, he took credit for other people's work, he was dismissive. He was the type of person who actually had to show that he was the smartest person in the room. And the funny thing is, I can remember at the ripe old age of 21, making a vow to myself that I would never lead that way. So it's a good example of things happening for you, not to you. And if you have a growth mindset, every single experience, every adventure is an opportunity to learn. Even the ones that you might think while you're in the thick of it, for instance, while you're driving a forklift, may not be the exact things that you actually set out to accomplish. So it turns out that human beings, not surprisingly, function at their best and when they're happiest when they're seen and respected. So those things can really help a culture thrive, and of course the opposite is true. They can really hold a culture back. And so that's probably a great lead-in to a question that I'm imagining is in the back of your minds, if not the front of your minds. And that question is, what exactly is the job of a human leader in an age of AI where AI can absolutely out-analyze, out-synthesize more information than any of us possibly could? And so I want to be honest with you, I'm not sure anybody has the answer to that, and the landscape is shifting really, really quickly, but I do think we can see the outline of something that is incredibly important. AI is extraordinary at pattern recognition. It can process more information again than any of us can, and it can synthesize that information into coherent arguments and generate what really sound like credible options almost as fast as you can hit the enter key. So those are real capabilities, and they will matter going forward. But what AI cannot do, and perhaps never in the way that matters, is care about the answer. So a machine can generate a recommendation. Only a human can take responsibility for a decision. And responsibility requires a couple things. It requires moral weight, and it requires emotional intelligence. And it requires a self that can be held accountable. It requires the ability to sit with ambiguity and make a call when the data is incomplete. And you're going to have a lot of those situations where you don't have all of the information, but you're going to have to make a call. And not because you calculated the answer through an LLM, but because you had conviction about what kind of leader you want to be, what kind of organization you want to be part of, and what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. AI cannot provide for the Gallup organization research results. It cannot provide for why employees are disengaged and what they're really hungry for. The experience of being seen by another person, of mattering to someone who has skin in the game, of being part of something built by and for humans is extraordinary. So here's what I believe the era of AI actually demands from leaders. It demands that you become more human, not less human. More present, more curious about the people around you, more willing to have conversations that don't always have a clean output, and more committed to developing your own judgment, your own values, your own voice. Because AI can optimize any objective you give it. You've experienced this before. But only you can decide what the right objective is. The leaders who matter most in the next decade are not just the ones who use AI skillfully, and I think that is going to matter, but they're the ones who remain unmistakably, irreducibly human in ways that technology cannot replicate. The ones who bring a genuine ethical conscience of decisions of consequence. The ones who people can look them in the eye and believe that they mean it. So you've worked your asses off to be here. And my hope for you is you celebrate the hell out of that fully. And while you're doing that, acknowledge all the people around you who supported you through this process. All of the missed engagements, the missed getting together with friends, the missed things because you were preparing for class and getting ready. So celebrate it fully today and share your exuberance with all those people because they deserve it. And then tomorrow, or soon thereafter, depending on how you're feeling tomorrow, start your next adventure. And remember, back to the beginning, adventure is this forever unfolding thing that we're always on. We're always on it. So lead in a way that makes people feel seen. Take responsibility for decisions that matter, and stay stubbornly, thoughtfully, and courageously human. Congratulations to all of you for class 26. And thank you. And it's now my honor to ask Paul Allen to come back up on stage and introduce Brandon Giulio, Academic Director of the Oregon Executive MBA Program and Professor of Finance. Thank you again.
Okay. Will the first row please rise? Please line up along the wall by Carrie, here. And we get to do some official recognition. Michael Aaron Tuquero Anguinaldo. Haig Biddulph. Marcos Bonfilioli. Billy Borcas. Christina Boss. Colin Bunn. Nathan Carr. Hector Castro. Sarah Marie Chapman. Kyle Dozier Crook. Pablo Antonio Cuellar. David Enciso. T. Gear. Jessica Ashley Glenn. Jonathan Paul Goldman. Melissa A. Grace. Jack Hansley. Gordon Huang. Craig Victor A. Johnson. Mitchell Johnson.
What's that?
Dominique Steele Jones. Elizabeth Ann Keebler. Alan Kirai. Ram Krishnan. Leliana Ledbetter. Nikki Leonard. Kyle Mabbitt. Jenny Martinez. Rachel Claire Neighbor. Quan K. Nguyen. Nathan Colin Peterson. Bruno Sanchez Barajas. Katie Marie Santora. Karina Marie Scott. Megan Knight Silliman. And walking for Megan today is her husband, Matthew Silliman, and daughter, Millie Silliman. Jamie Ariel Small. Josh Smith. Jonathan R. Snodgrass. Taliesin C. Solman. Julia Grace Stenson. Grant Matthew Thompson. Samuel C. Thompson. Sarah Marie Verducci. Jack Weibel. It is now my pleasure to introduce Jane Gordon, Vice President for UO Portland, for the recognition of Beta Gamma Sigma and our veterans.
Are you all so excited? That was exciting, isn't it? Should we all clap for them all again, one more time? So such a successful day for everybody, and I have the pleasure of honoring two particular groups of students. The first group is the executive MBA students whose scholastic excellence has placed them in the top 20% of their class, and they're invited to join the Beta Gamma Sigma Scholastic Honorary. And I think that you're supposed to stand when I call your name. I wasn't told that, but I think you know that. So this year's members are Nathan Carr, Taylor T. Gear, Jessica Ashley Glenn, Alan G. Kirai, Ram Krishnan, Rachel Claire Neighbor, Nathan Colin Pedersen, Karina Marie Scott, and finally, Samuel C. Thompson. So congratulations, all of your hard work, and that's it for you. So the next group of students I'd like to honor are the program's military veterans and active duty military members. So also please stand when I call your name. Michael Aaron Tuquaro Aguiando. Colin Bunn. And Talieson Salmon. So we know that you hear this a lot, but we all really thank you for your service. Thank you so much. Now, Andrew Nelson will introduce today's first class commentator. I don't see you have anything here, but okay.
Wow, you're an amazing group. Can we do one more round of applause? My name's Andrew Nelson. I'm a professor of management, and I have this incredible pleasure with this class because I am one of the first faces they see during what we call immersion, as people are just being introduced to the program. I teach an entrepreneurship class at the end of the first year, and then I'm also one of the last official faces they see because I teach an elective, which just wrapped up yesterday at noon. These students have been at it that long. It also makes this a little bit awkward. So my task here is to introduce our class commentator, Christina Boss, but I was just going through grades this morning, and that's a joke because actually federal regulations prohibit me from sharing any personal student data, so we're okay here. So I thought instead of reflecting on Christina's academic performance, I would maybe tell another story. And as background for all of you, as part of our executive MBA program, we do a global trip each year. And with this particular class, our global trip took us to Hong Kong, to Shenzhen, China, and to Vietnam. And this is an academic trip. We visit a large number of companies in many, many different industries. We meet the leaders of these companies, and we reflect on international business and what that means for us right here in Oregon. But we also have a little bit of fun on these trips too. And there was one particularly memorable occasion, which actually involves my colleague Brandon Julio here, Taylor Greer, and a live snake which was wrapped around Taylor's neck following several drinks. But that story too is one apparently I'm not allowed to share. So instead of reflecting on that at all, I'm just going to reflect a little bit on Christina, because she really is emblematic of the Oregon Executive MBA. She is a student, she is a person, not only of high intellect, not only of high intelligence, but of high character. She's someone whose contributions already speak for themselves, but whose contributions to come are some that we are all going to watch with great anticipation. And I can say this much too, she's also a great deal of fun. So please join me in welcoming Christina Boss up to the stage.
Thank you, Andrew, I think. So, as Andrew mentioned, about halfway through the program, we took an international trip. And on that trip in Hong Kong, there was a monument that a lot of us wanted to go visit, and it was out in the middle of the mountains, called the Tiantan Buddha, the Big Buddha. And there's a tram you can take, you can hike there, you can bus there. And 5 of us thought it would be a really good idea to hike there. So we're looking it up on All Trails, and there's a moderate trail we can take, which is 2 hours, 500 feet elevation gain. There's hard trails you can take, 4 to 8 hours, 2,000 feet elevation gain. So we're like, let's go with the moderate trail. We want to meet our buddies up there that we're taking the bus. So on we go. And after about an hour of hiking up wet stone steps, in 80% humidity, 90-degree heat, we made it to the top of the peak. And that should have been the halfway point. All we can see when we get up there is just more mountains and forest, wooden steps that go down the other side of the peak, directly down, a rack that had what looked like mops, and 2 caution signs, one that showed a person slipping and another one that showed flames. All I could think was, this is how helicopter rescue stories start, and we're gonna be in really big trouble with Amanda. But needless to say, we were fine, and we did realize that we were probably not on the moderate trail. We were definitely on one of the hard trails. We looked up where we were at in accordance to the Big Buddha, and we were 2 more peaks away. So after 4 hours of steps that went either up or down, we finally made it to the Buddha, and it felt incredible. We felt so accomplished to be done. But we all kind of had a moment together, and we were kind of bummed that it was over. Everything that we had experienced together, we realized was actually over, and that was the best part. We found a vending machine in the middle of the jungle, and we took a chance on some cloudy drinks with labels we could not read, but thank goodness we drank them, because it was Hong Kong's version of Gatorade, and it's probably what saved us from heat stroke. We pooled our snacks together like little kids, because we were not prepared for a hike that long. We took turns being in the lead, and we very quickly found out who was in their 40s and who was still in their 30s. Nate, I'm looking at you. We traded stories, and we heard about how proud Alan was of his son who was going off to college. And we heard Sarah V's stories about being an entrepreneur. And John G cracked jokes for all of us, because we were cranky and tired and hungry. And we realized that the best part was actually each other. And there's nothing else that I can think of that properly represents how I feel about this program other than that hike. Because it's been an epic grind. But I know we all feel today is really bittersweet. We're all really proud of each other and we're really proud of this accomplishment. And we're so glad to be done with the homework and have time back with our families. But we're gonna miss all the inside jokes. We're gonna miss Colin's caution sign emojis, keeping us all in check in the group chat. Hector asking one last question at the end of class. Birthday donuts on Saturdays. Josh's movie references. And the historic formation of Secret Sauce number 15. And my all-time favorite, 45 people enthusiastically cheering before and after every single presentation that we did, no matter what was in that PowerPoint. It was unconditional and it was amazing. A couple weeks ago, I asked Ram what he thought would be meaningful to talk about today. And he said unity. He said it was so unique and so surprising to be in this group, a group this big, where everyone chose from the very beginning to be open and vulnerable. And really early on, it was obvious that this group was choosing support over competition. We were just constantly taking turns lifting each other up. And this community that we built for each other has been an incredible safety net over the last 2 years. On top of the ones that our families were providing. And spouses, I know you all realized at some point that you were also not on the moderate hike, you were on the hard hike. But having that support, it has given us courage to be bold and take risks with the knowledge that we gained. Throwing our names in the hat for new jobs, getting new promotions and pivoting, negotiating for better pay or negotiating for the first time at all rather than just taking what we were offered. And I know for me personally, always have been a steady Eddie in my entire career, I would not have taken some of the risks that I took over these last 2 years if I did not have this support system on top of what I was learning. Above and beyond what we got, we showed each other the power of community and how much stronger we can be together. And I'm really excited to see what's in store for us as we continue to build that, not only with each other, but out in our workplaces. Class 40, coolest class, emojis allowed. I love you guys. And congratulations.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brandon Julio, a professor of finance and academic director of the Oregon Executive MBA. Congratulations, Class 40. One, it's very nice to see you. It was quite a pleasure a surprising pleasure to be involved in the hooding. I like that symbolism. It doesn't come close to representing what you actually accomplished, but I like how you look. I like these ceremonies we go through. Sam and I were talking earlier about what all these things mean, to which I said, I don't know, but they are pretty great. As academic director, I get the honor of announcing our class valedictorian, the top academic honor given to a graduating student from Class 40. We have an unusual circumstance this year, because normally what we do is we look at the highest performance in terms of the highest grade point average and award the valedictorian on that basis, which is a fair comparison because as compared to what we do in Eugene, you all take exactly the same classes. The great thing about this year is we have 2 students who graduate with the same GPA, the highest GPA in the class. One of them, if you had asked me when I met this individual, could I forecast who the valedictorian would be, and that's a very difficult thing to do, for her, I think I could. And that's Rachel Neighbor. The second valedictorian, who makes sense more in retrospect, but was also an excellent student, like Rachel, and like Rachel, a very good individual overall. I remember arguments over strict versus weak inequalities and the effect of leverage on discount rates, ranging all the way to, as Andrew said, a random fruit platter, snake handling, and dancing that I'll never forget. And the nice thing about this one is it reduces the amount of time I have to come up on stage because he's also the next class commentator, and that is Taylor Gear.
Hello. Webster's dictionary defines a word as speech sounds that symbolize and communicate a meaning. We were witness to hours of such speech sounds over the course of this last 2 years, and it is my honor to now impart some of them back onto our beloved professors. Class 40, our sacrifices and the results and the achievement hold different meanings to each of us. But one thing is common to all of us. We embarked on this journey in pursuit of guidance on the path to understanding. The hope being that we gain more from that guidance than we could have achieved on our own. Well, this excellent teacher offered us excellent guidance. Her lessons were consistent and strategically organized. Her guided notes facilitated visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learning simultaneously. Her exam questions mirrored the practice problems, which mirrored the in-class examples. And when she answered a question with the OEMBA catchphrase, "It depends," she always followed up by explaining what it depends on and how it is dependent. We are not the first cohort to find her teaching inspirational. In 8 years, she went from demonstrating early career excellence as the recipient of the Ersted Award to being appointed the Powell Distinguished Senior Instructor of Finance. She has acted as the director of the Lundquist College Honors Program and been the academic director of this program. I am honored to represent Class 40 in presenting this box of Cheerios and also this award to Professor Deb Bauer. Most important.
Which speaker's which?
We have this binder, but I didn't do my work early enough, so I've got my own piece of paper here. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. If everyone wants to stand up for a second, you've been sitting for a long time and stretch. Like, this is a good opportunity. Yeah, it's been a long day. It's gonna keep going. Like, keep your blood flowing. You should actually do that every 30 minutes. We're a little behind on schedule, but it is a pleasure to introduce someone who's not here, but who played an important role in the learning and development of many of the graduates we're celebrating today. I didn't build up the suspense like Rachel did. It's going to be Joshua Gordon. Josh is an award-winning educator, strategist, and negotiation expert with more than 25 years of experience helping leaders and organizations navigate complexity, build stronger cultures, and achieve exceptional status. He has served on the academic committee for the Oregon Executive MBA program and has become known for challenging students to think more strategically, collaborate more effectively, and approach difficult conversations with confidence and skill. His resume is impressive, having worked with organizations like FIFA, Major League Baseball, you may have heard of some of these, and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. On a more personal level, he and I share the love of running, though his times and distances are far better than mine, more impressive too. We've also both have degrees from University of UMass Amherst, it turns out, which I did not know until doing some research for this paper. He taught us about throwing X's and throwing Y's. He taught us where we landed on the Thomas Kilmann instrument, and most memorably, he taught us through practice. Negotiation is often a misunderstood process, and Professor Gordon not only gave us the theory, but made us practice, knowing that to be effective, we needed a few reps in our pocket. I'm honored to represent Class 40 in presenting the Teaching Excellence Award to Professor Josh Gordon, who is not here. Now just keep going.
No, I'm good.
All right, shifting gears a little bit. So it's only been 21 months since our cohort first forged. A lot has happened, and today I've been talking about what we learned and what the program means. I believe that Professor Yonkin summarized all of this pretty well when he told us, no one knows anything. In all seriousness, it is this realization that unlocked so many learning opportunities in this program. It is the tearing down of status and labels to realize we're all humans, and then poof, the fear of coffee meetings with founders disappears, the fear of reaching out to CEOs disappears, and the fear of being challenged disappears, and you settle into a state of curiosity. 21 months is a long time, so I wanted to give a quick summary of the knowledge that was passed on to us in class. And if you're about to take the program, maybe get ready to take some notes. This will help you. Accounting is storytelling, but mostly assets equals liabilities plus stockholder equity and, well, something about depreciation and goodwill. Economic value add is equal to NOPAT minus WACC multiplied by the total assets minus current liabilities. And of course, WACC is good, but you should really use adjusted present value. Net present value is equal to the time-weighted sum of your free cash flow. And price is a ratio at which two goods or services are exchanged. We were told, figure out what you're good at, figure out what can make money, and focus. Critique yourself publicly. Gain and sustain a competitive advantage, and, well, be sure to have a wow statement. Disruption starts by catering to the ignored, and beachheads are not just for getting sand in your toes. Porter, or I think he's yelling somewhere in the back there. Porter had 5 forces. Roger had 5 factors. Ansoff had a matrix. And Modigliani and Miller had a theorem. Reward success and failure, but punish inaction. Don't sue broke people. This is a good one. Know your BATNA, know your WATNA, and prepare. Yes, it depends, but what does it depend on? So that's what we learned in class. And for me, though, some of the most valuable learning took place outside of class. So you've heard a little bit about our teams that we're put into each year, and I'm sure for the families in the rooms, you know more about your partners' teams than you probably wanted to. So I just want to tell a quick story about how my year 2 team formed, actually who you have met most of tonight, Rachel, Christina, you'll meet the rest of them later. It started in Hong Kong. In my room in the very nice hotel at which we were staying had a substantial mildew problem, which I refused to acknowledge. Plus, there was a tropical storm. And as you'll hear about more in a minute, there was an illness of unknown origin cycling through the group. This is all to set the scene of our arrival in Ho Chi Minh City. I was tired, smelled like mildew, and may have been running a fever, but who could tell in that humidity? And there was a scooter-amplified chaos everywhere. But our first order of business was not rest and relaxation, or even laundry, which it should have been. It was a scavenger hunt. So there we go. But our first task in the scavenger hunt was to go get a cup of coffee at Le Caf for our team. This seemed achievable. So we followed our directions down a busy main street and into a sort of covered alleyway where people were selling hotel art and parking their scooters, and the path narrowed and twisted and got darker, and there were people hanging out in the shadows. And we had definitely reached that point in a movie where the audience was yelling, "Don't go in there. Like, turn around. What are you doing?" And the hallway ended in a tight spiral staircase leading up probably to our pending doom. But we persisted, risking life and limb for the scavenger hunt, just as the secondary characters in suspense movies do. And at the top of the definitely not up to code stairs, we found it. Le Caf. It turned out to be one of the best cafe, barbershop, bars in Vietnam. And we got a great team photo to celebrate our survival and a promotion to main characters. I tell you this because if I were traveling alone, there's no way I end up at that cafe. But there's no way I even make it past the hotel flea market that we walked through. But together, everyone achieves more. And this was driven home more times to me in this program than I have time to discuss here because we have other things to get on to. So in the OE MBA, we learned in class and we learned outside of class. But most importantly, we learned how to learn. We did not pause life for this undertaking. We stretched life. We filled in the gaps we didn't know we had. We gave up evenings. We gave up family time. We did other things. Where was I? We gave up weekends. We sacrificed, and most importantly, others sacrificed for us. You guys get to be ready here, okay? As our fellowship begins to break, I'll leave you with this. Price is a ratio at which goods or services are exchanged. We sacrificed, but I think we came out ahead. As William Yeats says, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. My fire is lit. So I know you guys all have props, and I've got some props too, because everything should have props, but gowns should have pockets. So there's a rumor, you need to get out your props now. There's a rumor that we were the oldest OMBA class, and it's a fact that we're the best. So there's a toast in Vietnam, that goes mo, hi, ba, do. Means 1, 2, 3, shoot. And so please prepare yourselves and follow along. Everyone ready? Mo, hi, ba, do. Thank you, Class 40. It's been a pleasure.
Hi, everyone. I have had the honor of being with all of these students since day one of immersion, and I am so honored to be able to present the third class commentator today, which is not normal. We normally only have 2, but this cohort likes each other so much that they actually had ties, not only for valedictorian, but also for class commentator. So I have the honor of bringing Samuel Thompson to the stage. We are lucky that Sam is with us here today and not on an extended global trip in Shenzhen, China. Thank you, Sam, for showing us how heat scanning works for security purposes. We are grateful that you are here today. And I can also, as I reflect upon why your cohort wanted you to be a class commentator, from day one, you have been one of the most reflective and poignant students when it comes to the comments you make. You don't speak up all the time, but when you do speak, it makes an impact. So we are so excited to have you come to the stage. Sam serves as the Executive E-commerce and Marketing Manager at Goodwill Industries of Columbia, Willamette. But well before his career with Goodwill, he spent many years in the national syndicated radio broadcasting, with roots at the undergraduate University of Oregon campus radio station. So please welcome to the stage the voice of your MBA radio, Samuel Thompson.
Boy, thank you for that, Amanda. I don't have shots for anybody to take, so sorry, that's a spoiler alert. I've also been dicing onions back in the back, so if you see me start to tear up, it's because of that. So when we started this program 2 years ago, there was a lot of talk about imposter syndrome and the question of, do I really belong here? I'm here to tell you, and this is our class, that you do. This is an amazing group of people. Collectively, we've had health challenges and new babies, layoffs, promotions, and new jobs. Some people are even starting their own companies. You deserve a seat at every table and a place in every room that you find yourselves in. I'm proud of all of us. Yeah. So I think kind of like Taylor was just indicating, I think a lot of us have gotten good at prioritizing and compartmentalizing things. I need to take care of this first. I'll deal with that later. I'll process that some other time. I found myself thinking about the process piece a lot lately. And as I've compared notes with classmates, I'm definitely not the only one. Many of us are processing the bittersweet fact that we've come to the end of this adventure. On the one hand, I am so excited to have my life back. No more early mornings and late nights of classes and homework and research. On the other hand, I'm going to miss it. The camaraderie, the bonding, all the shared experiences. We are different people than we were when we started this journey 2 years ago. For one thing, some of us had less gray hair, or more hair in general, 2 years ago. But we've been through and accomplished so much in a relatively short amount of time. When I reflect on this program, which I'll admit is a bit surreal since, as we just heard, many of us were in class up until yesterday, I think a little about the academic side of things, the financial formulas and the business methodologies we studied, but I think more about the larger lessons we learned, the approaches we can take to analyzing situations and challenges, and the strategies we can use as we tackle new opportunities. I also think about the gallons and gallons of coffee that we drank. One of the lessons might be to buy stock in whatever company the U of O buys that coffee from. And fun fact that I learned recently, they actually buy that coffee from a student who graduated from this very program a few years ago. So maybe one of our other lessons is to figure out how to sell stuff that the U of O buys. I also think about our trip to Asia, which you've heard a little about. In addition to the mind-expanding global business and cultural lessons we learned there, it's tough to forget the voluntary medical screening that our classmate Pablo and I took. We got pulled aside by security at a train station in China. The security officers separated us from the group, took our temperatures, and asked us a series of questions. When they asked about our occupations, I gave a mostly true answer and said something about working in e-commerce. When Pablo gave a 100% true answer and told them he worked in cybersecurity, did I mention these were security agents in China, cybersecurity? I was pretty sure he and I were never going to see the light of day again. After that fun question and answer session was done, they separated us from each other and took each of us through an unmarked door, down a dark hallway, and into windowless rooms where technicians in head-to-toe hazmat gear took throat cultures and blood samples from both of us, which was exactly as fun as that sounds. Looking at the calendar, that was about 9 months ago now, so I assume our clones are ready to hatch any day now. And I don't know what a Sam Pablo mashup clone would look like, but I know it would talk a lot in class. Okay, enough about that adventure. As you may know, the O shape in the University of Oregon's logo has multiple meanings. The outside of the O represents Autzen Stadium, where our football team plays. The inside of the O represents Hayward Field, where Nike was born and where track and field stars like Steve Prefontaine have competed for decades. During the very beginning of this program, we all spent a few days on campus in Eugene, which included a tour of Hayward Field. While we were there, some of us took a lap around that storied track, which makes me think of the OE-MBA program as a whole. It's kind of like a sprint because it goes by so quickly. And it's also kind of like a marathon because the journey is long. Keep that visual in mind as we think about everyone who supported us along the way. Employers, coworkers, faculty, staff, friends, classmates, and families. Speaking of families, I'd like to recognize and thank my parents and in-laws who are here with us today, my sister, my 2 great kids, and especially my wife, Fiona. I couldn't have done this without you. And this is for both of us. Several of us had the chance to meet prospective and incoming students a couple of weeks ago. One of the people I met with will start the OE-MBA program this fall, and he shared with us that his dad was a member of the very first cohort in this program. So thinking back on that lap that we took around the track and the question of whether this is a sprint or a marathon, I'm realizing that it's really a relay. So just like we took the baton from those who came before us, and just like we're passing along the baton to those who will follow in our footsteps, please join me in thanking everyone who supported us on our journey and congratulating the OE-MBA class of 2026. Thank you. So I also have the privilege of introducing the winner of a brand new award. It's called the Curriculum and Teaching Innovation Award. I'm not going to leave you in suspense. I'll tell you the professor's name, and then I'll share some thoughts on this person's impact on the OE-MBA program. The inaugural winner of this award is Professor Ralph Heidel. So Ralph had the seemingly impossible task of teaching a class called Technology and Innovation Management in 2026. We've heard about AI. This is a time where things in that sphere are changing every day. It probably won't surprise you to learn that AI came up a lot in basically every facet of that class. But AI also changes so rapidly, it seems like you want to create your syllabus in pencil not in pen. But it wasn't just AI. Ralph also had us to contend with. That's all of us right here. He would encourage us to be on time coming back from breaks, which is a place where our laissez-faire habits collided with his German desire for timeliness. We did not make it easy on him, and we're sorry about that, Ralph. I also appreciate the strategy and thoroughness and thoughtfulness that Ralph exhibited when preparing the AI tools we used in class. He knew we weren't all going to become AI programmers, but he also knew how powerful it would be for us to look behind the curtain to get a glimpse at how some of these AI systems actually work. One other thing I want to share about Ralph is the brevity of feedback that we received from him on our daily quizzes. Now, when it came to our homework, he provided deep and insightful feedback, but the quizzes were a different story. He told us from the very beginning that if our answers on the quizzes were satisfactory, we would receive one word from him: good. If our answers were very remarkable, we would receive 2 words: very good. He likened his very good to Paul Hollywood from the Great British Baking Show. When Paul comes over to shake your hand on a job well done, that's a big deal. Similarly, when Ralph tells you your quiz was very good, that's a big deal. So as we assess this course, Ralph's efforts, and the inaugural Curriculum and Teaching Innovation Award, I'd like to offer Professor Heidel a Paul Hollywood-style handshake and a heartfelt very good. Ralph is unable to be with us today, so my hope is he's either watching live or he'll be able to watch the tape of this, but thank you.
Okay, we're like almost there. So, and thank you so much for doing this with us. Honestly, this has been such a wonderful experience to see all of you as graduates and so many people supporting you here today. Class 40, I'm grateful for having had the opportunity to support and get to know you. You're smart, accomplished, successful, and compassionate, and you've made my transition back to the Oregon Executive MBA super fun and seamless and wonderful. So thank you. But before sending you off officially to toss your caps and celebrate with family and friends, I would be remiss if I didn't take my own advice from Friday and give some special thanks to individuals who helped make this day possible for not just me, but for you and for all of us. I'd like to start with thanking Brandon Julio, our program's academic director. And also like to acknowledge the other members of our academic committee who helped shape the direction of the Oregon Executive MBA. Angie Davis, Connor Henderson, Scott Jenkins, Nagesh Murthy, Andrew Nelson, Michael Martin Tellis. Thank you. Next, I'd like to recognize faculty, advisors, and coaches who are present here with us today. Deb Bauer, Linda Weston, Kathy Long Holland, Holly Grace. Next, I want to acknowledge the Oregon Executive MBA staff, a passionate group of individuals whom I love. You won't find a team more committed to student success. So thank you, Kit Alderdice, Carrie Brunson, Amanda Fontenot, Wendy Sierra, and Nana Tuffin. And although you might not see them behind the scenes, we have tech and student staff support who keep the class weekend experience running smoothly. Tolu Adekipe, Akimba Agohesu, Kale Brewer, Mendy Brockman, Doug Brazel, Sean Curtin, David Nabordnik, Ira Straub, and Emily Vang. So thank you to them. And last but certainly not least, thank you, family, friends, sponsors, and mentors for supporting your students these past 20 months, 21 months. So without you, this may not have even been possible. So thank you. Class 40, on behalf of the Oregon Executive MBA and the University of Oregon, congratulations. You are our newest graduates. And now we actually have a very special guest who will be leading the recessional for you, Class 40. So I'll invite that special guest to come on down. All right. Graduates, can you please stand and recess behind the duck?